Order, if you will, call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Matheson? Mr. Payne?
Here.
Ms. Reese? Here. Mr. Carlton?
Here.
Ms. Patterson?
Here.
And we're going to stand, and I'll ask Ms. Reese to lead us in the pledge. We're going to have a moment of silence first. Ms. Reese.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have any schools that we're doing tonight? Okay. All right. Let's see. First item on the agenda is recognition of visitors, and we have Mr. Charlie Thompson. Mr. Thompson?
Yes, sir. Y'all might have to speak louder or take the muzzles off.
That's all right. You're good.
Okay.
You're 6 feet away, so we're good.
Yes, sir. I took a bath. I'd probably get closer. I have a question about the current TSSAA policy for attending indoor athletic events at Johnson County School. The policy lists 6 categories that will be allowed access to the gym, right? And I've got a copy of 6 categories right there in the back. And apparently someone has amended the policy to give each player 4 tickets. And if the player's parents are separated, 2 tickets will go to each player, each home, right? Well, you got it, we'll go over. Number 1, players, parents, or guardians, and immediate household members. Okay. First responders, coaching and team personnel, school game and faculty administrators, athletics officials, and media and athletic scouting personnel attending the event in their professional capacity. I think it was on December 26th while attending the girls' middle school basketball game, I recognized Miss Simcox's son at the game. You know? And then I was informed yesterday Mr. David Atwood was at the game last night. And I'm just curious on which category they fall under to get into the game. Because when I tried to get my ticket, they asked personal, intrusive questions, okay? And then I got my ticket, and then after I left, they went to the parents and the player and asked the same questions. So, do I get special treatment, or does somebody else get special treatment? Explain to me how that works.
I can address the reason my son was there that day.
Okay, Gary.
Sorry. I can address the reason my son was there that day. He had been asked to keep the clock. The game started early. He left when he got over there because he had practice. He did leave, if you noticed. He left when he realized he didn't have to keep the clock.
Do you realize there's grandparents and people sitting at home that can't get into the game that are more than capable of keeping the clocks?
He's had experience with the clock, but I'm just explaining.
Let's talk about the impression, okay, of being fair and equal. So you're telling me, of all the people in Johnson County, that's the first name comes to mind.
They asked him to keep the
Is that
clock.
first name came to mind?
I don't know.
Well, who picked him?
They just asked if he could keep the clock.
Did they have a name?
Miss Arnie asked if he could keep the clock.
She picked. Of all the people
Well,
that can't
she,
get into the game, he gets picked. You know? I don't know if it's only up and up or not. I know the Army's got a word for it. It's called FUBAR.
he did leave, though, when he realized the game had started.
Well, listen.
He didn't stay and watch the game.
So let's get an explanation of why we have the rule that we have. I
So,
think that's the issue.
when the TSSAA amended this policy, and we were all made aware of it, there was a lot of, they waved a big flag and called attention to the announcement, and it was in coordination with Governor Lee's announcement back shortly before Christmas. I don't remember the exact date. I've got a copy of the same thing that Mr. Thompson was just referring to, and it does say all of the things that he said. He did not misrepresent what it says, but I'm going to tell you what we did, and I'm going to tell you why. It says parents, guardians, or other immediate household members of athletes practicing or competing at the venue on that date. Now, we have, going along with the TSSAA's mandate, we've had a mask mandate at all of our athletics competitions. This may sound off topic, but it's not. I'll tell you where I'm going real quick. We have put signage up and encouraged masks and even required them for admittance, but you'll notice that sometimes they come off people's faces upon entrance there. They don't come off Dr. Simcox's, they don't come off mine, they don't come off principals, but we, like a lot of other districts, have said it's going to be difficult to be the mask police and the enforcement. Similar to that vein of thought, that item, parents, guardians, or other immediate household members, we calculated what we thought our gym capacity was, and we said 4 tickets per student, per student athlete. And what we've got is we've got a list. That student athlete lists their 4 names, and that's who gets in. We're not in the business of, will show me your address, or do this or do that, and that's what we're doing.
That's exactly what I was asked before I got ticket to go in the game, who I live with.
It's
My
because
wife was asking if she lived with me.
It's because you weren't on the list. It's because you weren't on the said players list. I'm not going to debate it with you, but you weren't on the list, so you were questioned about it, and you eventually did get in that game.
Of course I got in the game.
And I have no problem with that, but it comes down to the student athlete has the choice to list the 4 names that they choose.
Okay.
And if your name's on the list, you won't be asked questions.
Immediate household members. So can Izzy put my name down as one? I don't
Yes.
live with her full time, I live with her sometime,
Yes,
you know?
she
That'll
can.
work, you know? Okay,
She
what about
can.
now, this instance here, where one of her teammates has 4 tickets and 2 people's going? That's not going to increase your count any, not any. I'm around Izzy, I take her to school, I take her ball players to practice and school and eat and back and around all the time. I'm around their parents, I'm around her parents, both houses, okay? So what was the big deal? What was the big deal about me getting 2 tickets that I knew wasn't gonna be used, because it's like a drug deal for the parents and the grandparents. It's like a drug deal. You gotta get on the phone and call. Oh, so-and-so's got one, and so-and-so might have 2. That's the way we have to work.
Can they
But I don't want to discuss that
share
policy.
tickets?
I'm not here to discuss the policy. I'm here to find out why Connor was there. Why David Allen.
We're not,
Wait a
hey,
minute.
hold
Colin,
up,
that's
hold
been
up.
addressed.
Hold up just a
That's
minute.
done.
Hold up just a minute. We're not gonna discuss that. We're not gonna get personal. What we're gonna talk about is who can come in and not. So the issue is 4 tickets. You've explained why there's 4 tickets. Now you asked a good question. If a child, like in graduation, if a child just has 2 people, but they have 2 extra tickets, are they able to give those tickets to someone else to where you still have the capacity in the gym?
I mean, no disrespect, I would not describe it the way Mr. Thompson did, but yes, if they work it out. We do not question who child A, B, or C puts as their 4.
All right.
Period.
Well, why was I questioned when I bought my ticket?
Because you weren't on anyone's list.
And what do you
Had
say?
you been on someone's list, you would not have been
What do you
questioned.
say?
What we're saying is that each student has 4 tickets. They've got a list that they have. Now, what he's saying is that if the other student that you're talking about had 2 that they're not using, that they could give to you, then they can give you that ticket and you can come in, correct?
But I'm
They don't
assuming,
give them a ticket.
I'm
That
assuming-
student needs to know to put Charlie Thompson's
Okay.
name
On
on
that
their
ticket.
4.
So
Okay,
if
that's what
tonight
I
at
was
the
going.
ball game, I know that my mom and dad are coming, but nobody else, then I could allow somebody else to be able to come in.
Yes, and here's the reason why. I can, as the supervisor over athletics, I can defend the position that it's not my job or within my capacity to address check everybody in that gym.
Right.
However, if someone comes in and says, player A said I could come as one of their 2 tickets, then they've just admitted to me that they don't live with them. Does that make sense? It's a matter of me, what I know versus what I don't know, and what I really have no business knowing. I agree with Mr. Thompson in principle. I don't want to ask him who he lives with. I have no desire to ask him that question. He just needs to be on some player's list of 4.
Well, I think, first of all, I think we're fortunate in that there's a lot of other school systems that don't, and I know Cloudland's one, that don't allow anybody in.
I
So,
think Hampton, because the boys couldn't make it, they doubled the ticket for the girls tonight.
yeah,
Which makes good sense.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that day, on the 26th, the boys weren't playing, the girls.
So let me ask this, and I don't want to take up the whole conversation with anybody else, but is there a way for people to find out if they're at capacity that they could come in? Like, for instance, we know Mr. Thompson has students in there, and that he has somebody playing ball. Is there a way for a student to say, okay, I'm only bringing 2 people in, and then how would they find out, other than like Mr. Thompson saying, calling around and trying to find extra space? Is there a way?
No, and
Okay.
again, as I just explained, because the letter of the policy says parents, guardians, or immediate household members. Again, I don't think we have any business policing what someone's address is.
Right.
But they need to work it out personally behind the scenes and be on someone's list. That way, I don't have to ask a question that I don't need to know the answer to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If someone comes in and said, I heard player A was only using 2 of his tickets, so we would like to use them, then that is equivalent to them saying, we don't live with player A.
I didn't ask that, I told
No,
you.
no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the generalized answer to Mr. Carlton's question.
No,
Okay, so
even
there's
the
not-
parents came in later on and were questioning the same thing, and they said, we're only using 2 tickets. So there was no problem with the parents, okay? The only
No,
problem was the ticket taker wanted to go by the letter of the law. She wanted to know where I lived, and I thought it was stupid, sarcastic questions, so I gave her a stupid, sarcastic answer. Okay?
I
Paid her and
understand.
went on in.
I understand your
Because I don't
frustration.
care where anybody lives. I don't. And who
I
they
understand
live.
your frustration, and I'm glad you got in that game. But next time, if you just have it worked out to where you're on that player's list to begin with, there'll be no
How
question.
do we get the list changed? Because here it is,
We didn't we're doing the best we can with this team on this
How
daily
do-
policy.
if I go in with another player's parents, and there's 4 of us, me and my wife and 2 others, and they say, this is Charlie and Lincoln. They don't live with us, but we got extra tickets, and we want them to use it. And do y'all have a problem?
I've clearly said what needs to happen.
Yeah.
You need to call them ahead of time, and that child needs to have your name on that list.
Call who?
The parents of the child. If you know, listen,
I'm walking in the door with the parents. You think I'm gonna just spring it on them at that time? I've done discussed it with the parents. I know they've got tickets.
and if you, Mr. Thompson, if you've already discussed it with them, then ask them to kindly have their daughter write your name as one of her 4, and there'll be no
Okay,
question.
can she do that on game day?
She can do it on whatever day it's done. I think it is probably done on game day.
Okay.
Yeah, if your name's on any player's list as one of their 4, there'll be no questions.
All right, let's get that cleared up.
Well, I've said that,
Okay.
I thought.
Good deal. Try to get you in the game that way. All right.
I can't hear you.
I said, we'll try to get you in the game that way.
I
We're
want
just-
everybody treated equal and fair.
Well, I think
That's
everybody's
right.
being treated equal and
Everybody,
fair. It's
okay.
just that this is a complicated way of doing it because of the limitations that's imposed on us. And I agree with you as far as the mask, because I've had a lot of complaints and even had people send me a picture of the ball games where people don't have masks on. And we're just trying to keep the kids in school and keep coronavirus out of there, so.
One last thing I will add, I'm ready to move on, I'm sure you all are too. We are hoping, fingers crossed, that this ends, it's only active through the 18th as of right now. So if it doesn't get extended, we will go back to the passes and so forth that we were doing prior to this.
And so
We don't love this.
And so I imagine y'all already signed a letter and sent down there to our governor and the TSSW and say, hey, we need to change this. Have y'all sent anything down
No,
there?
we have not, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna abide by whatever rules
Just
they
whatever
put
they
out.
say.
Right. Because we're gonna try to be safe. We're one of the only school systems in this area that's still in school.
And how many kids have you lost?
We haven't lost many.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank y'all.
All right, next item, consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anyone wants to pull off?
Move we approve consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese? Yes. Mr. Carlton?
Yes. All right, Lauren, student board member.
Back. Yeah, sorry I missed
We're
last
glad to
time.
have you here.
Hello students, we've just started second semester and are happy to see you all back from both holiday and snow breaks. On the 26th of this month, there will be a blood drive hosted at the Johnson County Hospital. Please be sure to schedule a donation appointment. Senior scholarship and college application deadlines are rapidly approaching, so be sure to check you're all caught up. Juniors and seniors, ACT registration is still open for the February ACT test, so be sure to contact the counselor if interested. The High School Drama Club is excited to produce Clue on stage in a safe, socially distanced, aka virtual environment. If anyone is interested to audition, please contact Mr. Eggers for more information. Our robotics teams will be competing in February for the state qualification. Please be sure to wish them luck. We're so happy to see your masked, smiling faces. Please be sure to keep up online, virtual students. Here's to a great second semester.
Good job, we appreciate that.
No problem.
And I think, it's worth mentioning again with Lauren's report is that we are one of the few, I watched TV this morning, of all the systems around us that are in virtual training. And we've been doing that. So I appreciate everybody's efforts, all the way from the director's office to the principals, and the school bus folks, and the food service folks. Next item, second and final reading of TSBA recommended changes on the following policies: physical examinations and immunizations and medicines.
And yes, on 6.402, physical examinations and immunizations, state law allows for religious and medical exemptions, and that's just noted in this policy. And then 6.405 with medicines, we updated it to allow students to self-administer for asthma, and they do that anyway, so this is just following the policy by TSBA.
Okay, this is a second reading, so we do need a motion.
Hey, I got one question, and I think I know the answer, but part of this got cut off on mine. Is an epidemic and pandemic, will that be the same as far as policy goes?
I would assume so.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Yeah, make a motion we approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Payne. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Long. Any further discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. All right. For those of you who weren't here last month, this is the second go-around on this. Second and final reading of the Johnson County Board of Education recommended change to the rules of order. One of the things that we have found on this last month, 2 voted for, 1 voted against. Under Robert's rules, because we had a quorum of the board and a majority of that quorum, we would have been able to have passed that. However, this policy that we voted on last month, the new state law is that you have to have a majority of the board to vote on it. So it has to be 3 people, since we have a 5-member board, to pass anything. So therefore, our vote was null and void. And the policy that was in dispute is stating what the state law says that we have to do, which is have a majority here. So we have to have it back up for a vote, because like I say, the vote last time was null and void because of the state law. Kind of put us in a roundabout way. We weren't really sure what we were doing, did we, Mr. Payne? So that's what this one is about.
So, with the current policy, if, like the 3 that were here, if we had voted for something that everyone else, that you 2 disagreed with, it just been tough.
Mm-hmm.
So state law prohibits that. So we need to change policies so it takes at least 3 of the 5 members to pass anything.
And everything we passed last month that the 3 of us agreed on passed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this is, and that's why it's brought back up this month, because it's something that we have to have by state law. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So we now know that we have to have a majority of the board to vote to pass anything.
Yes.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese? Yes. Mr. Carlton?
Yes. All right, the next item, discussion and approval of the continuation of COVID leave benefits of 10 days pay, which is 80 hours, through May 31st, 2021.
Yes, and Tina and I are going to present this to you. If you look on the screen, we sent you a copy of our PowerPoint. What this is if you have been listening to the news, FCCRA, which was the Federal COVID Relief Act, expired on December the 31st. So they did not continue to, I guess, go with that. We do not know what's going to happen with the new Biden administration, but we do have to have a COVID leave in place for this time. So again, this is just saying the mandatory FCCRA is gone. So we're no longer able to provide that. Our employees that are currently out due to either being active or quarantined are having to utilize their sick leave because we don't have the FCCRA. So what can we do? There are 4 options. Tina and Bridget have been listening to several webinars we've been involved with, but there's 4 options at this point that is recommended from legal. And what we're going to go over option 1 and 2. The option 1 is give FFCRA for reasons 1 through 3 only, and you'll see that in just a minute. And this is to extend it but not restart and not FMLA. What that means is, for example, if Susie had COVID in semester 1, and let's say she gets quarantined or something again in semester 2, she can't extend that leave. It can't restart. But if Susie has not been sick and has not been out and not used any COVID leave and she gets COVID in semester 2, then it's just extended that far. So it's not going to restart, but it'll be extended. Option 2 would be to give it for reasons 1 through 5, which we'll go over. Option 3 is they have to exhaust existing sick leave first. We definitely do not recommend that one. And then option 4 is to use sick days if they are available, and if unpaid leave if no sick days are available, and we don't recommend that one. So option 1, this is sort of the cheat sheet, and it would only be up to 80 hours, which is 10 days. So reasons to qualify for COVID leave would be if you're quarantined or isolated because you've been in contact, if you've been advised by the healthcare provider to self-quarantine, or if you're experiencing symptoms or seeking diagnosis. So you either have to be positive or you've been quarantined. And remember, we're critical infrastructure, so unless you're a household contact, they still do work. Option 2 is the same 1 through 3. The only thing that is added is number 4 and 5, and that is if you're caring for an individual or you're caring for a child whose school has been placed on closed, or you can't get daycare for them. I can tell you the districts around us are all doing option 1 instead of option 2, so that gives you a little background. And this is just sample language if you choose option 1, and it's just saying employees are entitled up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave. We would like to backdate that to January the 1st if you all approve this, and it would go through May 31st, and that's when the end of the school year would be. If they're unable to work or telework because of being positive or being quarantined. Same thing with option 2, except it adds those about child care.
So can you
I can
go
back
back
it up.
to that? Go to number 4 and 5. And can you read those?
This one?
Number
okay.
4 and 5.
Number 4 is caring for an individual with reasons 1 or 2. So that means if you're having to care for somebody who is positive, or if you're having to care for your child whose school was closed or they had to be quarantined and sent home. And that would be 2/3 of the regular pay, but they could only use 80 hours.
What does the board think?
Well, this covers, I guess, everybody. We're talking about teachers,
Yes, this is all employees.
all four.
Okay, and we're saying this is only going to be for employees who have not used this previously. Is that correct?
Correct. Have not used their days.
Yes.
Have not used
like the
80
10
hours.
days.
Have not
Yeah.
used 80 hours. We do have some employees that, for example, may have only used 2 or 3 because the quarantine time or the being an active case time fell on a time when we were out. So they only had to use 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then they would be eligible, let's say if they'd used 2 days, they would be eligible for
For
8 days. Is
Right.
that
For
correct?
the balance.
For the balance.
Balance,
Yes.
okay.
Where would the money come from to pay him?
Well, it's coming out of our funds because in essence, it's like you're taking a sick leave day, you're just not using your sick leave.
Okay.
What funds are being used is for funds for the sub are coming out of the Esser 1 funds. So that's coming out of the federal dollars that Angie oversees.
I was wondering if any of that was.
And we have not used all of that.
Okay.
We still have quite a bit in that line item.
So for substitutes,
Mhm.
is that an Esser?
Yes.
And-
If they're substituting because of COVID leave.
Okay.
I do have another question. Even though they are getting paid, how is it still coded? Is there a different code that you use for those people?
When they're out.
When
That-
they're out?
That would be more of a Tina question because that's through bookkeeping.
Okay,
What we do is we keep a spreadsheet,
yes,
so they're still paid through their same account.
right,
We do not use any other accounts, but we have a spreadsheet that tags that specific person.
okay,
And we have sick leave that comes in, those are also noted as COVID,
mhm,
and that kind of gives us, it points us to the ESSER funds
okay,
to take the sub-pay from.
okay.
Seems like if we're gonna require schools to be open, just like we've been bragging on, our schools are open and
We need to take
our
care of
staff are there and our students are there. If something like this comes up, we need to,
it. Well, the other question I have then, I'm sorry,
no, I
I was thinking, I was adding in my head, is, if our students have had contact, how many days are they out?
I can share that with you. Wendy gave me that because, it changes so much all the time.
I mean, we're paying for a teacher to take care of their child 10 days,
10 days.
but ain't it 20?
No, that changed the last time around.
It was 24.
It was 24. Now, if you are exposed and you have no symptoms, it's a 14-day quarantine, which includes the weekends.
That's students.
Yeah, students and staff. If you're exposure and you have symptoms, that don't make no sense.
There has to be a negative
It
test.
has to be a negative test, and you can come back within 10 days.
if you,
I just didn't
Yes.
want, we're just giving them 10 days and they had to care for their child more than 10.
yeah, if you have COVID, you have to quarantine 10 days from the date of the symptoms start.
Yes.
And they like to have a negative test at the end of that. But we're gonna give 10 days, 2 weeks, which actually, when you count the weekends,
It's more, right.
which
Right,
is
yeah,
generally
take
what
care of it, yeah.
everybody's getting as far as businesses and what the original law said. But
Yeah, I have a problem with it. I was just curious how many days, like a student had to be out.
Looks like the maximum with is 14.
Okay.
does anybody want to make a motion on this item?
Okay. Let's get it straight what we're doing. Option one,
This is your 4 options. And option 1 is just reasons 1 through 3. So this is just if an employee tests positive, has symptoms and has to quarantine, or they're advised by a healthcare provider to quarantine. So that's option 1. Option 2 is all those 3, plus it adds in an additional if you're having to care for an individual that has COVID or has had to.
What'd you say all the rest of the counties are doing?
They are doing option 1 with the 10 days. I can tell you Bristol City, they're only allowing them 8 days. But everyone else is doing the 10
Aren't they
days.
virtual?
They are right now.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah, but everybody else in our region is doing the 10.
My concern is if we got kids in school and they get contact and they stay home and a teacher doesn't have a choice,
Right.
but to stay home with the child.
If we're gonna teach kids, we're gonna cover that.
but then again, if that parent is a teacher and they get it, and they've used that time for their child, then they're gonna have to use their sick leave.
Yeah, I mean, you only got so
So-
many
so,
days, but
yeah.
this at least gives you 80 hours.
On top of their sick day.
So let's
Right.
look at the next one, option 2. Here's my thought. If a child is home with COVID, and the teacher still is going to have to work, so they're going to go home to the child and come back to work, So do we want to look at option 2?
Well, if,
What do you think about that? Is that going to be a risk, a health risk?
do you want to?
Well, if the child is home with COVID, then the parent is gonna be a household contact.
So they're automatically
Oh.
home. This is if they're
Okay.
caring for an individual with reasons, you know, more so
Okay.
with reasons. Yes, they'll automatically be sent home if their child has.
Because they would be,
Well, and the likelihood of number
Gotcha.
5 occurring is caring for a child whose school is closed. I mean, that's kind of,
I don't know.
That's
in
what I
all
wanted.
likelihood, if the school's closed, the teacher's gonna be home with them.
That school was closed, yeah, majority of them.
So 2 gives us more options for the staff. Again, if we're asking them to come to school and the students to come to school, I think we gotta take care of our teachers and their staff, not just our teachers, our staff.
true, yeah. Yeah, I'm leaning toward 1 or 2, and I can see where probably 1's going to cover those other 2 options anyway, really. It's going to cover for it.
It'll cover the options 1, 2, and 3, right? I
Yes.
mean, the
Yeah.
1 through 3
Yes,
items.
yes.
Well, anybody wanna make a motion? And your motion would be whether or not you want option 1 or 2, and we'll vote on that.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we go with option number 1, which would the employees are entitled up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave between January 1st and May 31st if they're unable to work or telework because the employee is, well, if they're under federal, state, or local quarantine,
I'll second.
for those
Okay.
other 2, yeah.
So we have a motion to choose option 1 with a second.
And that's your recommendation?
It is,
I guess one thing we need to put in the language, if you choose to extend where we were or do a restart, that's one thing that we need to have.
What do you mean a restart?
that means to restart
A
everyone.
restart would wipe out the first semester, and everyone would start fresh with 10 days, or just extend the COVID leave from the prior semester, and that would say if I had used 10 days, then January I'd have to start using my sick days.
Have we had any
I thought that
repeats?
was in the language here. It says,
We do have some repeats.
We have, Wendy told me that this morning, we have 3 that have tested positive for a second time,
wow.
and their 90 days were up. I do know that, you know, I'm not sure if it was a false positive with these, some of these, but, you know, of course you can't tell that. I mean, you don't know, but we do have 3 that have already tested positive twice.
Okay, well, in this one option I'm reading, it says, extend but not restart. Is that what you recommend?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, then add that to my motion.
Put that in your
Is that
second?
okay with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. with-
All right, so explain that again, Mike, what your motion's gonna be, and then we'll,
It'd be, okay, the 3 options is given. It says give FFCRA reasons 1 through 3 only. And that's to extend but not restart, and not FMLA. That would be, as on page
option number 1
4.
then.
Yes,
Number 1.
yes, option 1.
Okay,
So go
so,
down again, Rob. Go down.
Other way?
Keep it going. Keep going. That one. Yep. That one right there.
And I'll insert that.
so basically, that's option 1.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's to, I think we need to add the language extend.
Yeah.
and we can add that.
And also, are we not to, we cannot use the same language of FFCRA, is that correct? We have to extend it and call it something else, is that correct?
And that's why we're calling it COVID leave.
COVID leave.
So we're gonna call it COVID leave?
Yes.
Something
Okay.
different, yes.
But again, just realize if Biden's administration, we may be bringing you something different in the next month or the month after.
Understood.
But
All right, so we have a motion. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes. All right, next item is Esser 2 funds discussion.
Yes, very, very excited. I know I sent this to you in a daily update email. Esser 2, the application opens, I think, the 20th.
And can you explain what that is for?
Yes, this is the, I guess, the funds, federal funds that we are being able to utilize due to COVID. We're currently in Esser 1, so this has, helped us not only with additional nursing, help for our nurses, additional custodians, all of our equipment for cleaning, benchmark assessments.
Was mental health in there?
Mental health, we were able to hire a mental health provider. What am I missing, Angie? She oversees all that. So.
Chromebooks.
Yes, Chromebooks, which I do have some good news about Chromebooks. Rob did receive an email that our Chromebooks are being shipped. So we ordered approximately 1,200 Chromebooks. So he's doing 1,300 Chromebooks. So they are being shipped. So that helped to fund this to get us closer to being a one-on-one system. So that did fund that. Esser 2 is an extenuation of that the federal government is giving to school systems, but it is substantial. You get about 3 times the amount. So we're looking at $2.66 million that will be received for Johnson County schools. But of course, it is federal funds. It's only allowable. There's certain things that are allowable that have to be related to COVID. We've done a needs assessment. Angie's going to get with the principals. We're going to survey them just to see, what they're needing and wanting. But again, it has to be related to COVID. So Angie wants to share with you our priorities that we've listed as supervisors. The supervisors met. So these are just some of the things, because you think $2.66 million is a lot of money, but it can go quickly.
So some of the things that we've talked about, and again, this survey will be going out hopefully tomorrow to principals and administrators, so that they can kind of rank and prioritize their needs. Am I loud enough? Okay, sorry. So we're going to send that survey. Hopefully it will go out in the morning. But some of the things that we've talked about is continue the funding for devices so that we would be a complete one-to-one system. Replacing smart boards with interactive TVs. For instructional purposes. Again, continuing that mental health position, continuing some of our our academic programs like our benchmark programs, some of the CTE programs that we've had to purchase for virtual learning, things like that. We've also gone on there HVAC, our heating units, and then ionization units that help clean the air. Continue if we need nurses and custodian positions, maybe putting some aside for that. And we've also thought, our employees have had to work a lot of extra time this year, and so we thought, that we would possibly look at doing some type of stipend for all employees for the extra time that they've had to work this school year. Also doing a summer school and paying a higher rate than we typically do so that we can address learning loss. Possibly if there's teachers that's willing to work summer school, paying them their actual salary for that time instead of just paying them, the regular $20 or $22 an hour, because we know that some kids really need summer school and we need our very best teachers providing that instruction. We've talked also about updating our wireless infrastructure and our servers, and just making sure if we're going to be a one-to-one district and we're going to use this technology, making sure that our infrastructure will support that.
So that's just some ideas that we have bounced off of our head to help utilize this 2.66 that will help not only our students but our staff, and we feel like this is definitely a plus for Johnson County Schools.
Is there anything that we can, like Wi-Fi, is there anything that we can do or that can be done to get more
Wi-Fi
service
out
to get more service to our students? Is there anything that would be available, or anybody that would be willing to do anything, or can it be used for that?
The only thing that really we could do is, and again, we would have to, I guess, make sure it's allowable, is if we were to use some of these funds, if there were places in the community that would allow us to put some type of wireless infrastructure in place, but now I don't know what the logistics would be of that, if it would even be, you know, something we could do. But that's a good question, and I'll certainly note that.
You know, some systems are on SR1, put it on their school buses, and, you know, drove the school buses out, so that's something we could.
Ms. Wheels,
Yes.
would you share with us Dr. Simcox's approval? Because we're talking about school funds, and I'd like for you to share that with us.
Yeah, I knew that she would not say anything, but I do think that this was a great honor. She was contacted yesterday, and she was selected to serve on a committee by the commissioner out of a few directors across the state to talk to the education committee today. And so I felt like that really speaks well. She represents our district well, and it's a good thing for our community that they're hearing what the needs are for rural school systems. So I thought that was a great honor.
Once again, Johnson County is getting recognized, and Dr. Simcox, I'd like to ask you what you said to them. Was it the House Committee on Education or the Senate?
It was the House, the cabinet members from the House, but we talked about, of course, the 4 policies that are going to be talked about at the special session, and I think they're going to release that this afternoon. Learning loss, accountability, teacher pay, and literacy. That is going to be the focus of the special session next week. But, you know, of course, teachers' pay is definitely always on our mind. And one of the things that was talked about, you know, the governor has not, they did not give us an exact term on investment in teachers' salary. They said more information's to come. But we talked about, you know, the possibility that they're looking at a 2% increase in BEP fund, of those BEP positions. Not only for starting July 1st through the next school year, but they're going to look at backdating it from January the 1st till June 31st, which would be additional dollars to go towards teacher salary. So I didn't get to share a lot of information with the supervisors, but one thing that they are going to probably provide is a 6-week summer school for 2 weeks this summer for students in K through 8 who have experienced learning loss, and that will be completely funded by the state.
Wow.
So that will free up a little bit of those Esser dollars. So
That's good. You can go back to the drawing board, Angie, and add some things.
I feel sure we can spend this money.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we all heard that, because I think that's a great honor, and Dr. Simcox was able to give some valuable input to the House Education Committee as they go into the special session on education. So, thank you, Dr. Simcox.
thank you.
Next item is to approve the purchase of a CTE culinary food catering trailer using Rachel Ray grant funds, and recommending R&M trailer sales in the amount of $13,500.
I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Adams.
We spec'd this item out and put it out for bid. We got 2 back, and this one was by far the cheapest. The other bid was way higher, but it's because they went above and beyond what I'd spec'd out, which is not what we wanted. So this one's what I would recommend to buy.
So this was through a bid process?
It was.
What's going to be available on this particular trailer?
Well, we're going to use it for catering, because,
Yeah.
you know, our culinary programs always use catering. This spring, my goal was to get it out to the elementary schools, and just like a normal food truck, food bus, and let the teachers, you know, purchase from it. And hopefully, our intentions are to maybe set up in this parking lot behind central office next year. Let the students run it, use it as a work-based learning opportunity, and that way they can see every aspect of the restaurant business.
Where's the equipment going to come from? Do we already have equipment to go in it?
The trailer comes equipped with everything except we'll need a generator and a refrigerator, put some fresh water in the tank and some food, and we'll be ready to go.
Oh, it comes equipped with all that?
Yes.
How much was your grant?
Grant $70,000. A lot of we spent, we had 2 interactive televisions we purchased, some equipment, but the rest will be spent on equipment for the classroom. With this 13.5, I'm hoping to get the trailer finished over the summer, have a wrap put on it, let the students design it, have our logo, Rachel Ray logo put on it, and then, like I say, next fall, be ready to go.
You talk about equipment for the classroom. A lot of that equipment in that classroom has been in there since
Yeah, some of it's kind of old. It all works really well, but some of it's getting old.
Getting old, yeah.
One of the holdups we've had about buying equipment for that is getting the sprinkler system. People come out, we're gonna have to put some more drops on it, and they haven't been out to do that yet. But at that point, we can get our equipment in.
Is there a limit or a time frame when this money has to be used?
I'd like to have it all spent by the end of the year. It's not been specified by then, but
Okay.
my goal is to have it finished by the end of the school year.
And I understand you have a really dynamic new instructor up at the.
He does a
We
great
do.
job.
I dropped by and seen him.
He is
Does a
wonderful.
great job.
Good
Does
job.
great with the kids. He knows his stuff.
That's good. That's good to know. Okay, do we have a motion on this item?
Yeah, I'll make a motion we approve the purchase of that trailer from R&M Trailer Sales.
Okay, Mr. Payne's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Long. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. Next item is our 5-year plan. We'll expand our early post-secondary opportunity and industry certification offerings to ensure that they meet the community workforce needs, and that they enable students to become ready graduates as measured by TDOE.
Yes, this is one of the goals for the 5-year plan. You know, we address the section of the 5-year plan every month, and this is with EPSOs, which mainly impacts CTE. I think about 85% of our EPSOs and industry certifications come out of the CTE program. We have about 15% that come out of the high school with dual enrollment and AP. So Herbie's going to just sort of share some data real quick for you about that.
Yeah, I'll just share some quick numbers with you, where we've been, where we're going, where we hope to go. Like she said, probably 85% of the episodes, which would consist of dual enrollment, local dual credit, or industry certifications will come out of the CTE building. 3 years ago, we had 105 earned. 2 years ago, we had 242 earned. Last year, with the COVID, that dropped to 159. And this year, I expect we're going to be about the same number. If we don't have them in school, we can't get their certification test, and we can't bring them through dual enrollment. Next year, if we can get back to normal, I expect us to get back up to that 250 range. We've been in talks with Northeast State, looking at some new industry certifications to implement next year. So I think we're going to be fine. We just need our students, and we need them in school to work with them.
Are there any IT certifications available for the kids now?
We don't have any that we are currently offering, but hopefully with the coding program, we can implement some of those that are IT related. We're actually looking, I have a webinar tomorrow with ICEV. That's our online platform that we're using with a lot of our programs. And they are offering, I think it's 17 different industry certifications through their program. They've been really great to work with, so hopefully after tomorrow, I'll know if that's going to be feasible to use some of those. And another thing we're possibly looking at, we'd like to look at maybe a cybersecurity type program next year. If you look across the state line, Virginia Highlands is hitting that hard, and it's growing. If you look around cybersecurity, and it tying great with our criminal justice program.
Thank you. Next item, approve Johnson County High School graduation.
Yes.
Already for May 22nd.
Well, I do feel like parents appreciate when we set this earlier. We're actually looking at trying to put this in the calendar from here on out, because I know they set, trips and trying to get family members in. But we are asking for it to be on Saturday, May the 22nd. As you know, our plan is once we get to those 18 days, we would like to make the rest of our snow days virtual days. So that means that the end of our school would be May the 27th. So that gets them out the weekend before that.
Is there any idea if this is going to have to be outside or inside? Or?
No idea with that yet.
Okay.
We pray it can go back to normal, but we do have a good plan in place now if we have to do it outside. So.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the graduation for May 22nd.
Mr. Long has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. Next item on here, maintenance vehicle versus personnel vehicle costs for 5 days. That has been asked to be tabled again, and to the left, we did not discuss it last meeting because of y'all. Mr. Matheson's not here, and my understanding is he wanted that pulled off of our agenda. Next item is recommendation of purchasing two 72-passenger buses to Johnson County Commissioners.
Yes, and I will turn that over to Dr. Long. We do have to do it a little bit different this year. We do have to have the approval that goes in front of the county commission, which will go in front of the budget committee next week, and Dr. Long and I will, and Tina will be there to present that as well, and Mr. Garber.
So this year, this actually, with that being brought to our attention, and as it's always been, well, I say always, for as long as I've been aware, it's always been money in the county court's budget rather than ours. And so it was pointed out this year that it really is their bid, which that's true. And so they ran it this time with Mr. Sharon, the purchasing agent, posting the ad and him actually unsealing the bids. We were here, we did it here just the other day. And you have the packets, and I added this sheet, this colorful sheet, to yours. You should find it up there. But we had 3 bids. I don't want to make this any longer than necessary, so you can see what the bid numbers are. The low one was to Cumberland, which is an international bus. The other 2, of course, being Thomas and Bluebird. It was the low bid by a considerable margin. I went through the bid spec by spec and looked at the areas of non-compliance. If you look, there was a place where they would check yes or no. None of them were 100% of everything we asked. For instance, none of them had a 1,000 watt block heater. They all had a 750 watt block heater. Not all of them had a one-piece windshield, which isn't really that big of a deal to us. So with the fact that none of them were non-compliant, or none of them were 100% compliant, let me say that. And the other big question, Ms. Skurlock is watching. She's going to be at the commission meeting next week, but she could not be here tonight. So I said, well, let me email you a question that I think is relevant that I imagine the board would want to ask. And that question was, what are the capabilities of the mobile on-site maintenance? Well, I asked her first if she had seen, She said Cumberland understands how important service is for Johnson County. Cumberland has mobile on-site maintenance, and we're willing to pick up the bus needing repair and take it to the nearest dealership or our dealership for service work. We understand that bus needs can vary, and we're willing to handle the service portion as a quick case-by-case basis. And then I said, well, what are the capabilities of the mobile on-site maintenance? On-site is our preference as indicated in our bid packet. To which she replied, our mobile trucks are awesome, fancy vehicles that can do anything on the road that can be done in the shop, and says we're prepared to provide a full range of mobile service capabilities, bumper to bumper. We can do anything that can be done in the shop on the road. And that's when she sent me this flyer as attached. So we have that in writing from her in the form of an email. So it's my recommendation that you all make the recommendation to the county court that we purchase 2 of the 72 passengers from Cumberland International in the amount of $85,456 each. But I'll be glad, Mr. Garber and I, to answer any questions you may have.
Have you had one of these buses before?
We have 3 internationals in the fleet right now.
Have any problem with it?
We have had, back several years ago, we had the recall. And our closest dealer at that time was Good Pasture. And they were there for several months to get the recall done.
Okay.
But other than that,
That was on seats, wasn't it? Best I remember.
it was something to do with the frame,
On the seat.
body frame, suspension.
Okay.
How old were these buses?
Those are 08s.
So it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay.
But that's
Is there-
the only issue we've had as far since we've owned them.
On the spec sheet, was there anything significant?
On
these-
Cumberland, they had a 750 watt block heater, whereas we asked for 1,000, but all 3 of them had
But I
750
mean, is
watt.
there anything, in your opinion, significant?
No,
I know
It's a
Yeah, I
short
looked at
list
that.
what it was though. They did not have stainless hoses, for the heater. Only one manufacturer has 2-inch poly-in roof with an R value of 6. The other two had 1.5 inch with an R value of 5.7. That's negligible. And then only one of them has a one-piece windshield. And we're probably gonna modify those specs next year anyway if they're not industry standards.
Could I ask Mr. Long, if you would, for just a minute to explain how the bus funds came about and how they are, like we talked about, they're not school funds, they're county funds. Can you explain in our replacement? Because you were a part of all that.
Several years, well, I was on county commission, and the year escapes me, but it was the time when the bus garage exploded, blew up.
It was in 93 because I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, so I was,
Just told your age.
I was a
One of my classmates' house.
county commissioner then. We always struggled, and if you listen to the news, every county around here struggles. Every time they want to buy a school bus, there's a big argument about it. I was chairman of the budget committee and got tired of the argument. I said, let's just set up a fund. At the time, I think it was 3 cents out of the dollar go into that fund. They've adjusted it because 3 cents is worth more now than it was then. And that's the way it stayed. And I'm glad that they left it that way. We have no problem going and asking for money because it's there. And I enjoy that. But there at one time, we were replacing like 7 or 8 buses, at one time because of that explosion. And I think it's averaged out now a little more because of at the time, we could only run 100,000 miles on a bus. And now, diesel buses go a little more. So I think that averaged out some. So I think it's worked out real well for us.
Thank you. Because not everybody who may be watching understands how our buses are purchased, and our buses are purchased with county money, not school board money. And from what you're saying, that the bids were put out by the county, opened by the county, and we're gonna make a recommendation to the budget committee.
Correct.
Okay.
Somebody wanna make that motion? Mr. Long?
I'll do that.
All right, and we're gonna make the motion of the second part of what he was talking about the repairs and all.
Is that gonna be included?
That's included.
It was in the bid.
It was in the bid?
Yes.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is that maintenance, is this going to go along with it? Is there an extra charge anywhere when they do the maintenance, and for what period of time?
No, it
Do we know that?
included in the bid packet, so when
Okay.
they quoted this 85,456, that's that's the price.
Okay.
So the maintenance.
Do we know for how long? Does it say for how
I
long?
do not know. If Ms. Skurlock was here, I'm sure she could tell us.
I'm assuming it'd be like a new car at once.
Some, you know.
Yeah, did you have that?
Yeah,
information?
usually on your warranty issues, it's 3 years on the body. I believe it's 5 years on the engine and 7 years on the transmission. And that's the warranty. And they will come to our place and do all the warranty work as long as we own the bus. If it's a recall issue, as long as we own the bus, they'll come to our place to do the recall.
So our board,
Is that good?
Yeah, I just,
Now, I think on that spec sheet, it said the on-site warranty was only for a year though. Did I misread that?
I did not read that.
That's the one
No,
part,
I'm sorry.
that's the one part of the spec sheet I wrote.
The on-site is a program that goes on the laptop computer that I check the engines with to diagnose check engine lights. That's an on-site program. It's
Oh.
called the Cummins Insight.
Okay.
And that, we've always had to purchase it.
On the last page of the spec sheet, it says mobile on-site technical and/or repair services and support by manufacturer or approved third party. And they marked yes with that, and then provided the follow-up
Okay.
information via the email today. So So it did not indicate that it was for a year only.
Okay.
But even with the other manufacturer where on-site maintenance is the standard, one of the other two, it's not forever.
Right.
I mean, everything's got an
It's
expiration.
for warranty repairs.
Yeah, right.
All right. Any other questions?
Did we get a first and second on that?
We got a first, we didn't get a second. This is a recommendation, but I think we need to just among ourselves
Yeah.
vote so we can say
Yeah, I'll
what.
make a second, at least send that recommendation over to the county for
Okay,
the Cumberland bid.
so is there any more discussion, questions? All right, if you will, call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. Budget update.
Uptight. A lot of times it is.
The school department at the end of December was 49.1% revenue received and 43.51% of appropriations expended in our general purpose funds. Revenue for the month of December for general purpose was $2,090,462.23. Expenditures for the month of December for general purpose was $1,382,635.48. Taking a look at your sales tax collections that were received in December, which if you remember, those are for the month of November, was $188,109. Collections were up $3,638 from the prior month, and they were up $41,773 from the same month in the prior year. Property tax collections received in December were $575,011. Collections were up $206,461 from the prior month, and they were down $56,070 from the same month in the prior year. And remember, these numbers are before the split occurs.
Do want to thank you for those notes. Appreciate it.
All right. Dr. Simcox.
Yes, you have your Head Start and pre-K information. Lori, do you have anything you want to share? Shaking her head, no. Extended day survey results. We did survey our teachers on how they wanted to proceed with extended day, which means do we want to continue our 30-minute extended time and the 13 snow days, or do we want to stop that and make up every snow day? 98% want to continue and 2% want to stop. So we will continue our extended day. One of the things I'd like to ask the board that Edna is working on it's hard to believe, the 22-23 calendar. Because if you remember, we vote 2 years ahead of time because I think parents do appreciate that. You know, in the past, we have the 13 snow days, and we always add 5 at the end, which gives us 18 that we can back off. But now that we have the virtual, I guess, component, one of the things, you know, once we get to this year, the 18 days, then we will go virtually for those bad snow days. Is that something like we would want to continue for the 22-23 calendar, just include the 13 stockpile days, and then anything after the 13 with bad weather would be a virtual day? You wouldn't be adding on the 5 days, but then you wouldn't have to worry about taking the 5 days off. I think parents, and I'll be honest, some of our staff members get confused with that. Well, we have 5 extra days to play with, but we can back them off, and just making it a true 180-day calendar.
Since everyone will have devices now, right?
Yes, by then, especially with Esser 2, everyone will have devices.
How reliable are these Chromebooks? I mean,
I've not heard of any issues.
I mean, there's going to be 13. I know there's going to be some issues with some. How that many get?
We have 600 or 700 of them conservatively in the county already, and some we've had for 3+ years.
Mm-hmm.
They're very reliable. You can do what they don't have compared to a laptop, and Rob, I'm probably doing a horrible job of this, but Rob can't do this, obviously. But what they don't have is like 180 gigs of memory or something like that. They don't have a lot of memory. They work in the cloud. They're cloud-based, and they're obviously Google-driven. So, which is what our teachers are using. They're using Google Classroom, they're using Google Meet. Our email is all Google-based. So they will do everything we need them to do, including online testing when the time comes, which we anticipate will be this coming fall, but that remains to be seen for sure. So yeah, they're
They do have a storage device in them though, a small hard drive.
4 gigs or something like that, but most everything's cloud-based.
Actually, I believe the internal storage on those is about 16 gigs.
Okay.
It's certainly not.
They've improved. I told you I wouldn't do a great job. My sophomore in college does not have a laptop, he has a Chromebook, and it does just fine.
Right, as does mine.
Okay, so the storage is out on the cloud, not a hard drive on the system. So that's one piece of hardware we don't have to worry about. Fail.
Right.
So just in moving forward, you know, we feel like being a one-to-one system, that's something we could do after the 13 snow days. And that would allow us to not only know when the end of school year is, we can set graduation, parents can make plans, we can set summer school, because we are going to be required now to have summer school. So I do think that would help us. So just a thought. And you did get your daily update on the COVID results. You know, we are looking good, like Mr. Carlton said, as far as the school system. You know, we do have some students and some employees that have tested positive, I think, from the Christmas break. But all in all, our numbers are looking great. We're very thankful that we're getting to stay in person. Our custodians do a great job of cleaning and sanitizing every evening, our bus drivers with the buses. So I think that has been a joy for us to be able to be in school. And
They started COVID vaccinations for education yet?
we have started COVID vaccinations for employers. We've sent that information out. I can tell you the health department won't give me exact data, I guess because of HIPAA rules, but they did say that there's been several employees that have tested positive. I don't know an exact number.
Not tested positive.
I mean, not tested, got the vaccine.
Got the vaccine.
Thank you. I wonder if everybody's looking at me. That received the vaccine, the first dose. You know, I think we were lucky, those of us that did get the first dose of the vaccine, because it's my understanding that they're sort of backing that up and not sort of going to give that to school system employers now on a limited basis. I do think that our health department has done a great job trying to get our staff vaccinated. And I do want to say thank you to our board. Board appreciation is week after next. Johnson County Schools has a wonderful school board. These members care about our students. They care about our staff. You know, I do thank you for allowing us to continue to be in person and to supporting us, you know, the principals, teachers, supervisors, and myself. And what we've tried to do, we've tried our best to make sure that every student in Johnson County is learning. So thank you for all you do. We do appreciate you. That's all.
Dr. Simcox, can I have 10 seconds? Back on the bus thing, you all already approved it, but to answer the question more thoroughly, and thank you to Mr. Garber for calling this back to my attention. I'm not very good with all these terms, and I didn't by any means have this memorized. But on the first page of the bid, warranty, 5-year engine, 7-year transmission, 3-year body and chassis.
Okay.
So it's in there.
All right.
Wait a minute, can I have 5 seconds too?
Yeah.
I know Ange was talking about like the Chromebook for the kids. We've actually, with Head Start funds, out of COVID Head Start funds, we bought fire tablets for our kids that they could check out for the year too.
That's great. Thank you, Lori. All right. Mr. Payne?
I think got everything covered. Appreciate all the administration's done. This is a tough time. This virus has been tough. Got a lot of stuff going on. I want to thank you guys for the way you handled it.
Ms. Reese?
Well, I hope everybody had a good holiday and glad to be back. I think we are very fortunate here in Johnson County because we're about the only school system that's in session right now, and that's something to be thankful for. And I just hope that we have a good rest of the year. And I thank you for everything that you do.
Mr. Malone?
Yeah, I know this stuff changes just about daily. And it may get worse before it gets better as far as changing. The questions everybody has, but, I mean, we just have to keep going, and I know the kids enjoy being in school. They've got to be learning.
They are.
So I just appreciate it. Thank everybody for their effort.
Can you, the students that were notified over the holidays, I think you have 200 and something that were failing, and you had 100 and...
We had close to 300 that were failing. We've had over 100 that have come back, making phone calls for those that have not to see, what is going on. So we are definitely dealing with that right now. As of today, we do have in the elementary 120 on virtual. The middle school we have 43, and with the high school we have 122, which is down 76. So we have seen an influx this week of those students that were required to come back.
So what is our next step on the students who are failing and didn't come back?
Phone calls, and then, educational neglect charges will be filed, and then we're looking at retention.
So for parents, it's very important. I mean, we're all concerned about their children learning, and so far they're not learning, and our interest is that they learn.
Yes.
And so far what we've seen in the school system going to school is not what everybody thought as far as COVID. So
right.
It's something for those parents who were notified. It's not something to neglect.
Well, and two, another thing to realize, this is off my call today, K through 8, if you fail, there will be a 6-week summer camp that will be required. So, that's another thing to that would be added.
The whole intention is trying to make our kids pass and succeed.
Yes.
And I know Miss Edna has had her hands full trying to get that done.
She's received a lot of phone calls.
You want to say anything?
Jessie Lang is not here, but I could not do it without Jessie's help. It has truly taken two this year, and Jessie does an awesome job with keeping up with the numbers. She actually does more with getting the kids the forms to get back in school. She just does an awesome job. But I just want the parents to know we're not punishing the kids. We just want them to learn and to succeed and be successful. And we know if they do not do this work that they can't be. So our best interest is the student.
So this is very serious. If a family was notified of their student failing, it's very serious that you get your child back in school and that you contact school officials.
Yes. I would like to add, with Connections Academy, we did receive approval that those numbers have been increased to 1,500 each, 1,500
Wonderful.
in K-8 and 1,500 in 9-12. So that is wonderful news. Right now in K-8, across the state, there's 208 students. In 9-12, there's 57. With our Johnson County Online program, if you remember, that's to try to get those homeschool kids back, we have 6 total, 5 in elementary and 1 in high school.
But the Pearson Online is what you're talking about, has approval now for the 1,500 students?
Each.
So that will make a significant source of
Yes.
income for Johnson County schools.
It's supposed to. So
Yeah.
we're getting funding, so that's
great.
good.
I'd also like to suggest to the board, with your approval, is that this next month we hold a work session, and in that work session we discuss the contract for the director of schools. We had continued that last year for 1 year, and that year will be up at the end of the school year. And I'd like to have us send out a request to everybody with a couple of dates, and that will be open to the public, but and it will be online, to do a work session and just discuss where we're going to go with that contract, if that meets everybody's approval. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, if you would, to send out some dates to everyone, and it'd be about this same time, so similar to our time, outside of our regular board meeting.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? We have a motion?
I make a motion We adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.